All right, everyone. So hi there.
Hi.
I'm Ian, and this is Dr. Gina. We're here with Yapi, and today we're really excited to be interviewing Laura Hatch of Front Office Rocks. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. Gina and I've been on a few podcasts and interviews in the past, and we always have a lot of fun. So I'm excited.
We do. And this is one of the reasons why it was so important that we bring you on the show, because not only you have the gift of gab, and but you also, you have such an interesting and unique perspective into the business of dentistry, because you've been not only you co-founded two dental practices with your husband, you've been at the front as an administrator, you've been the team manager, and of course now you're lecturing, you're coaching, you wrote this book. And by the way, thank you so much for an autographed copy of this book. I loved it. We're going to talk about this. I have some questions. And of course you have the business education. So you really have a very good grasp on what's involved in dentistry as a profession and as a business.
Right.
And I wanted to kind of learn a little bit more about your kind of pathway into dentistry, and also how your perspective was shaped by having all those different experiences.
Okay, great. Yeah. I actually joke about this because I say, it wasn't like when I was a kid, they said, what do you want to be when you get older? And I'm like, I think I want to work in a dental office. Like most of us in the front didn't have this dream to be a receptionist or an office manager. So my background is human resources. I have my master's degree in organizational development, which is training, change management, helping an organization get from A to B. I've been in recruiting, I've been in sales, I've been marketing, I've been inside sales, outside sales. Like I've done all the business stuff, and married a guy who went to dental school, was married to him all through dental school. I saw how much business training he got in dental school.
Which is nice.
Right. They basically made him a great dentist. 4 years at dental school. I think he took one 1-hour class on like how to write a business plan to get a loan. And that's it. And they sent him off in the world and said, good luck, have fun. You're a great dentist, which is great. I mean, we have great dentists out there because of dental school, but what I saw was missing was running the business and sales and management and team building and all of the other stuff. So he was a couple of years as an associate, and then came to me in 2002 and said, I want to open a scratch practice. Why don't you run in the front? I'll be in the back. It'll be amazing. So that's kind of how I got thrown into dentistry. We had a practice on the East Coast, and we now had one on San Diego on the West Coast. And I knew nothing about dentistry. I didn't know teeth had numbers. I didn't know they had surfaces. I remember seeing all the dental codes thinking, how am I going to learn all these? I remember listening to the drill noises the first week going, oh, I don't know if I can do this. But I figured it out. Back then there wasn't a lot of options. You could go to courses or seminars that came to town, but there wasn't the internet. There wasn't all of these podcasts and all of the great things. So I just figured it out. And over the years we had two practices, two fee-for-service practices. And I learned that training in my own practice was key to successfully, onboarding a new employee and teaching them, how we do what we do in our practice and how important it is. And about 5 years ago, I thought, there's still not anybody out there really helping train. I'm all about the front office team. I love assistants. I love hygienists. I love the clinical side, but there's a lot more options for training in the clinical side. There really wasn't a lot of options for the front office. And so I would work all day long and keep lists of stuff that we do in the front, every little detail. And then at night I would film videos of, how important these things are, why they're important and how to do them. So that mostly I didn't have to repeat it again every time I hired somebody new, but then it kind of became a business that a lot of clients and offices are using now to help train and enhance the front office of the dental office. I knew a couple of things when I was deciding about Front Office Rocks. One, I knew I didn't have time, energy, or interest in being a consultant. There's amazing consultants out there. They do, a great thing, but that wasn't my interest. I didn't want to go in office. I knew that a lot of dentists knew nothing about what happens up front. They kind of just do this and hope the front office team knows what they're doing. So I needed to give them a resource, because it used to frustrate me when dentists would say, I have to hire somebody up front that has Dentrix experience or EagleSoft experience. I'm like, no, you don't. We can teach them that, we need somebody with a good personality who can multitask and, you know, quick learner. So I knew I needed to give them a resource they could use. And I also know in a lot of dental offices that dentists, that the team can't travel. A lot of times we have, you know, single moms, young families. We can't take them and send them to, you know, a 3-day conference. And so that was sort of how I started with the idea. Originally, I was going to do 1-hour-long DVDs, you know, and then I just kind of hit it right when, you know, learning management systems became big on the internet, and short videos and, you know, for quick attention span. And so I evolved from the 1-hour videos to all my videos are like 10 minutes long, and they're all very subject based. They're very focused. And they're in categories based off of everything we do in the front. So I didn't realize when I started, I'm sure you felt the same way with Yapi, how much it's needed and how big it's growing. I mean, we're growing every year. So I feel like I got lucky. A lot of people are like, well, it's not, it was a lot of work, and it was, and it still is. But it's just, I think I found something that really is needed in our industry.
You know, I have to absolutely agree with you because you know, you're right. Traveling for the team is difficult. It's hard to get, I mean, in my office, we have, you know, on a team side, we have 20 some people plus the associates. And, you know, it's hard to get everyone to go to a course. And we always do this. We still send our team to courses, but we can't send everyone. And not everyone is always on the same page as to what was learned. And DVDs are great, but here's a problem with DVDs. It's hard to carve out an hour in a dental practice to just sit and watch a DVD. And also, you know, attention span.
Right.
You can, you know, at some point, like 10 minutes into the video, you forgot where you started. And so, and because they can't go, here's the thing, here's the biggest thing. And this is what I love about your videos is that it's to the point. You know, you can learn something in 10 minutes and then you can go practice it. Right. And you can get everyone in my office has 10 minutes. Watch a video and then, okay, now let's practice.
Right. And I wish I could, that's the biggest challenge I have right now is getting dentists to realize the importance of doing that, because it's, my thing is 1 hour a week. Everybody should be doing some sort of training 1 hour a week. And it's amazing to me how many times dentists are like, oh, they won't do it. We just don't have time. You have to make time. You know, the best investment you can make is in your team. And there's no, I mean, I'm not the only one online that has, I mean, watching webinars like this and listening to podcasts, there's so much knowledge and data out there, but dentists focus a lot on production. How can we produce more? How can we produce? And if we're not investing in our team, you know, you're going to stay the same year after year or get worse. We need to continually be enhancing and getting better. So
I agree so much. And, you know, I feel like as practice owners, we are often not working on things that will get us closer to our goal on the big rocks, you know, but we're working on the sand and the small rocks because we're constantly putting out fires. We're constantly dealing with the urgent, important and urgent with something that lands on our table or desk because, you know, someone from the front office or back office comes in and says, well, this situation happened and what do I do? So we give them the answer, they go away, but they don't learn, they don't understand the why behind the how and the what.
Exactly.
And they can't reproduce it. So we become those, you know, firefighters running around the office, switching between the dentist cap. You know, I loved in this book, you're talking about all the different hats that we wear as, you know, dental practice owners, and the firefighter should be one of those hats because we spend a lot of time doing that. And if we can train our team, that's been always a big thing for me. If we can train our team to think independently, do things independently, take things away from us, not pile on, then we will be so much more successful. That's the only way we can scale. Yeah.
The other thing too is if you look at training in the dental office, and this is what I love is talking about training, because in the dental office, if you think about if you're a receptionist, a dental assistant, whatever, your first day or week in the dental office, it's like you're thrown to the wolves. Here, do this, do this, do this, do this. Here's a task. Here's the do. And we get taught how to do tasks. We get taught how to do things.
So true.
And we're busy and we're doing what we're told. But if you don't understand why this task is important, the why behind it, you're not going to have as much success in doing whatever it is. For example, confirmation calls. I talk about this all the time. What's the actual purpose of a confirmation call? It's not the call. It's not the checking a list off. It's to get that patient to show up. And there's a huge why behind that, because we are here to help our patients keep their teeth for life. And then when somebody knows their job is to get that patient to arrive, maybe it's going to take 4 confirmation calls. Maybe it's going to take a text and an email. Like, it all depends on the patient. But if we don't understand the why, yeah, I did all my confirmation calls, right? And so I think training it's so important that not only for the dentist, but also just the team member, I'm going to be more successful if I understand why this thing matters to the bigger picture of the practice.
When we talk about the bigger picture, that kind of brings it back. I know you've had like over 15 years experience in the front office. Was there just an initial observation that you noticed in the beginning that kind of sparked this idea of needing to have leadership training? What was your aha moment? If there was?
I think it wasn't necessarily aha. What it was for me was, honestly, it was when we moved to California. We didn't really do our homework when we moved to California. We sold our practice on the East Coast. We moved to Southern California in 2007. So this is the worst economy. I didn't realize how much competition we have in Southern California. Like, there's way more dentists here than we used to have in Maryland. And now we're 20 minutes away from Mexico. So patients go, oh, I need an implant. I'm going to go to Mexico, right? And we want to open a fee-for-service practice. And every dental professional said, you guys are insane. There's no way you can do it. You have to take insurances. You have to be a network. And we did it. We did it very successfully. And at the time, my ex-husband now is a CEREC trainer, and he would have CEREC doctors coming through the practice. And they'd come in to learn CEREC. They're there 10, 15 minutes, and they start looking around going, how do you do this? Like forget about the CEREC, but like, how do you have this place running so well? And that's when I had my aha. I'm like, I know if we can open a successful fee-for-service practice in Southern California, then I must have some ability to be able to help other offices. And really, for me, it's about hiring, it's about training, it's about getting the right team members, and it's about having the right systems. And if I can help dentists understand that and understand the importance of it, then I can help more dentists this way by being online and going around the country speaking than going in and helping one dentist at a time. So that was really when I had my aha.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Very true. I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You've mentioned that you talk to dentists and they'll say, I tell them to watch those videos. And we have the same experience with Yapi when a dentist says, I tell them to do it, but they just won't do it, right?
Yeah.
And of course, it goes back to leadership skills. So I have a question for you. First of all, what is leadership? And secondly, how do you develop those skills? Because not everyone is a natural born leader. And we hear so many dentists say, business is hard. I don't know how to manage people. I don't like to motivate employees, right?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say there's so many opportunities. I mean, you and I have been to a bunch of conferences now, where leadership conferences. And I think the biggest thing is that dentists tend to think like dentists. I say it's a dental box, right? And so you come out of dental school, dentistry, and then you get on these Facebook groups and you talk about dental stuff and you ask each other dental things, and we live in a dental world. But if you want to become a good leader and a good business owner, you got to get out of that, and you actually have to get into the business box. Yes, it's okay to be in the dental box when you're treatment planning and you're doing dentistry. That's where we need you. But when you're up and out running a business, you have to get the skills, and if it's not natural to you, you've got to get training. You as a leader if it's leadership skills, if it's communication skills, if it's business skills, and there's so many resources now, there's no excuse. But one of the things that I talk about all the time is you have to look within. So many dentists and dental teams blame outside factors. It's too much competition. There's corporate dentists across the street. I don't have time. Patients are all insurance driven. As soon as you're blaming outside factors that you have no control over, you give them the weight, and therefore you're never going to succeed. I suggest that you look within your 4 walls and you say, well, what do we have control over? And as an owner, if you're not trained in what you need to be a good business owner, go get the training, go get the knowledge. If your team doesn't know how to do things, find the resources for them. Because if you don't, you're just gonna, I mean, what's the quote? You do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, you know? That's why you're still working at 60, 70, 80 years old, because you never went out of your comfort zone to go get the training and the help that you need.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with this completely. I think a lot of the, leadership is just really human relationships. And I know you talk a lot about this in your Step Away from the Drill book. Our whole business is about relationships.
Yeah.
It's building relationships with our patients. It's building relationships with our teams. And a lot of it is understanding each other.
Right.
There's a lot of barriers between the front and the back and the dentist.
Yep.
How do you suggest a dentist kind of learns all that stuff? Besides attending leadership courses, but how do dentists learn dentistry?
Sure.
Business of dentistry.
Business. Well, so the reason I wrote the book, and I smile when it feels so weird when people hold up my book, because I remember 5 years ago, somebody said, I'm going to write a book. And I'm like, I have nothing to say. The book isn't rocket science. I mean, it is literally, it breaks down the front office. But the first step to becoming a leader is knowing what's going on, like what should be happening. And as long as you're walking by and doing this and ignoring it and hoping that the team knows what they're doing, you really can't lead that. So first is just realizing I wouldn't be able to be a dental assistant unless I learned what happens in the operatory, right? And so the first step is just recognizing it. And that's why I wrote the book. I mean, I literally wrote the book for dentists who, I know there's a lot out there that don't want to admit, I have no idea what goes on the front. I don't know. I had a dentist the other day tell me he didn't know if they were in network or not. He didn't know they were supposed to close out at the end of the day. He didn't know how to balance reports. That scares me. Like, hopefully he has a great team, but it scares me because this is 1/3 of your business is this front office. And if you don't understand, but he's not going to go on social media and admit that and say, I need help. So I wrote the book as really kind of the first step. The next step, I think, is getting in communication with your team. And I have an implementation guide that goes along with that book. Just sit down with your receptionist and your office manager and your scheduler and start to talk about what's expected. Talk about what you want them to do. I think that dentists typically, now this is stereotypical what I'm about to say, aren't the best communicators. They think that the team can read their mind. They think they've told the team where they're going or what they want to do. But most of the time, if I talk to team members, they have no clue. They don't know what the doctor wants to end up being at the end of the year. They don't know what the doctor wants. Many times they're not getting any feedback, good or bad, from their dentist. And so my thing is at least start talking. Getting in communication and setting goals with your team and then moving forward is a step in the right direction. Now you need to become a better leader, just like they need to become a better office manager and scheduler, and right. But it can be a team effort. It doesn't have to be, just the dentist. And that's my thought behind the book, was to really kind of get that communication started.
It's funny you mentioned that. There was a post on one of the Facebook groups that I saw a couple of days ago where a dentist asked if your clinical team, or not your clinical, your administrative team walked out today, would you be able to run the office?
Whoa.
And, it's scary how many dentists said, I wouldn't know where to get started.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, half of them don't know passwords to anything. I actually saw a fun one. This is one of my favorite ones I talk about. There was a dentist who was on one of the groups who his schedule had been falling apart. So he took a long lunch and told his dental assistant and his office manager to work on the schedule. He came back early from lunch and found that his office manager and assistant were in the back getting high on nitrous.
Oh, man.
Got onto the group and asked the advice of the group, should he let them go or not? It had been out there for about 5 hours before I saw it. I was the first person to answer that wasn't a dentist. Every other dentist said, no, you can't let them go. You don't need turnover in the office. Patients aren't going to want to see new faces. And I'm like, why do you think your schedule's empty? Whenever you're not there, they're in the back getting high on nitrous. Like, that's just the kind of thing where I think we live in the dental box. You really got to get out of that, because as long as you don't know what's going on in the front, like how to run the business and understand, you don't have to be the insurance coordinator, but you need to understand what the insurance coordinator does. As long as you don't know, ultimately the team doesn't work for you, you work for them.
Right.
Your paycheck depends on if they know what they're doing and if they're following through. And that's scary to think. I mean, no wonder we have such a problem with embezzlement in our industry, because dentists just don't know. Yeah. So, but there's so much now. We're in a great day and age where there's so many resources to be able to get that. You just have to be willing to say, I don't know, and I need to find out.
Yes, I think that's the first step, is to admit that I need to know, because I think a lot of times we hire someone with experience and we just expect that they're going to hit the ground running,
Right.
you know, and we never communicate. We don't know what kind of experience they have. We don't know where they're coming from, how
Right.
that practice was run. And we sort of assume that they're doing their job until all of a sudden we notice cash flow issues. And then we look back, and it might be a little too, well, it's never too late, but it might be, you know, a lot of work to get things back on track.
Yeah, that's one of the things I have a lot of dentists who, I'm a resource to my clients. So not just training videos, but I have clients asking me questions all the time. Should they be doing this, and should they be doing that? And he has, somebody reached out to me this morning and said his office manager did not think that patients should be called more than once every 6 months to reactivate them, because she read some lawsuit thing about that would be harassment. And so they have only been trying to reactivate their patients 2 times a year, because she was, and he didn't know. And I'm like, no, that's not true. Here's, you know, but now there's ways to be able to find out, because before, I mean, if that's what if that's what your office manager says and you don't know, you just follow it. And now, you know, there's plenty of resources to be able to help you get better in knowing what should be happening.
Absolutely.
You kind of brought up a good topic. You have a published article that I really liked on LinkedIn, and I believe you published it on your website a while ago. It's called "Do What Makes Sense, Not Just the Way We Have Always Done It." And you hit the nail on the head with that, because I kind of feel like a lot of dental offices do get in these habits, and, you know, it's kind of this culture of, well, we've always done it this way. Mm-hmm. How do you help break the ice with that?
Well, so again, it goes back to why. It's always, and I think in the article, I told the example. What made me think about writing that article is I was in a friend's office, and a friend from ADOM, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. He asked me to come in his office and just observe. And I'm like, I don't want to go in office. I'm not a consultant. He's like, just come in and spend the day. And they had this system where they were putting treatment plans in this book for one person and this book for if they scheduled or not. And there was this whole process. And when they had to get a treatment plan, they had to find the folder. And by the end of the day, I watched how much time was wasted doing that. And I said, well, why do you guys do this? And they said, I don't know. I guess they had a consultant in 10 years ago, probably before computers or before EagleSoft, you know, and this is just the way they've always done it. And I said, well, if you don't know why you're doing it, then we should just look at if there's better ways. Mm-hmm. And many times I was in an office where they answered the phone. How may I direct your call? How often do we direct calls in dental? I mean, we most of the time we handle the call, right? So I said at the end of the day, well, how many times do you direct calls? They're like, well, we really don't. I said, why do you say that? They look at each other and they're like, I don't know. Like, so asking why is the first step. If we're doing something and the team or you can't say, why is this important? Right? So for example, when a patient walks in, I teach the team, stand up, say hi, welcome to practice, shake their hand. Why do we want to do that? Because the experience of the patient matters and they need to be welcome when they walk in. So I can say why to that, right? If you can't say why we do something, maybe you need to look at that process, that system, and say, can we make it better? Do we need to be doing it? Can we eliminate it? You know, how can we adapt it so that we understand the why behind it?
Excellent. You know, it's funny. I have my own, and I've shared this with you before. I was watching you were on, I can't think of what the show was, but you were on a show, and it was live on Facebook, and people were posting comments, and you were talking about the why behind, you know, the way we do things. And then you switched to talking about the most important piece of equipment, and someone posted a comment, and I'm sure she meant well. She was so excited. She loved everything you said, but she posted, yay, we've got this pop-up phone system in our practice, and so if we don't know the number, we just let it go to voicemail. We don't pick up. And I'm going, no,
right?
Be a new patient. That's not why you got the system. Why you got the system is so that if you know it's a patient of record and you juggling 2 phone calls, your patient record goes to voicemail. It's not ideal. We don't want to do
Right.
that. You don't want to miss the new patient phone call.
And somebody probably told her that, like either someone from another office or her dentist. I mean, I have team members all the time telling me things that they do in their office. And I say, why do you do that? Well, our dentist told us to do that. Okay, let's not do that. Let's talk about a different way, because, you know, they get told what to do. And at the end of the day, the dentist is the boss and you do what the dentist says. But I had a dentist the other day. He sends his entire team to lunch and he answers the phone over lunch. Well, if you look at phones right now, the highest number of calls we get are between 11 and 2. So all he's doing is doctor's office, taking a message, and he's like, do you think my team should answer the phone during lunch? I'm like, yeah, stagger their lunches. Like, and it's just things that we just don't think of, you know, you're clinical, you think about that. But there's little details in the front that really, if you can figure out the why and fix some things, it makes a huge improvement. And answer your phones.
And answer your phone. You know what? I was just listening to your Daily Hacks podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Ellen and Jason, and it was great. I love the format. I love that you could give those very important tidbits of information quickly, and it's quick enough so that anyone can listen to it on a daily basis, and it's just great. And you were talking about the telephone being the most important equipment in the practice, and of course, it's the front office that are, for the most part, responsible for answering the phone, although the back can be cross-trained, as you were talking about, so that you can have this coverage. But here's my question to you. How do you, when you're screening patients, when you're hiring, not patients, potential employees, and you're hiring, how do you know if they're going to be a good phone person? Because you got to have a good phone person. If they're going to be answering, they've got to be they've got to be warm and create that first incredible impression. How do we know?
Exactly. Actually, it's funny because my next book that I'm working on, Gina, so we'll have to do this again. I'm in the middle of writing a hiring book because, like I said, I used to be a recruiter. And I know my whole purpose and goal is to create front office rock stars. And I need the dentist to understand how to hire and train the right people. So the first step is hiring the right person, then training them, and then understanding what they're supposed to be doing so you can lead them. And that's really kind of the evolution. So I've just finished my chapter on phone interviews. The phone interview is key. When you, we tend to not like to hire. We have this negative thought about, hiring, right? And then we're in a hurry, we're multitasking, we're doing other things, and we're not respecting really the process. And so we end up with a new hire that we're like, she's no good. But if you start with the phone, as soon as that person answers the phone, start listening. Do they answer the phone friendly? Does it sound like somebody you would want to talk to? Do they sound distracted? Are they respecting this call? I mean, they answered it, right? Did they answer and go, I'm at work, I have to call you back? Like, bad judgment call.
Answer.
Yeah. So it's all these things. And if you can eliminate a lot of candidates just from that phone call, but really listening to it, especially if you're going to have this person on the phone, how do they sound, And the whole process is this somebody I would want to spend the day with and work with? And so many dentists don't do that. They have EagleSoft experience, They've had a dental office before. I don't really like them. I can't have a conversation with them, but I'll throw them in the front and see if they do any good. And that's where we get stuck.
And of course, the first place they get thrown on is the phone.
So that is my biggest pet peeve. So we try out new employees on the phones, right? So we spend thousands of dollars to make the phone ring. It's our lifeline to the outside. It's the first impression most of the time for the new patients calling in. And we put a brand new person who's not trained. We don't know if they're any good. They're nervous, and we stick them on the phones. It's kind of like I compare it to, how we always have patients who send their kids to us first to see if we're any good before they. And I'm like, what if we sucked? Like, what if we weren't good? And we wonder why we have dental phobia in the. But it's the same thing. Don't put, somebody should be fully trained before they answer the phones. Have them pull charts. Have them make reactivation calls. Something else. Don't let them answer the phone, because I think that is the most important piece of technology in the dental office. I'm actually going to get a shirt made that says #respect the phone. If we're not answering the phones well, we're not converting a lot of patients. We're not getting them to schedule. You're not getting a lot of dentistry in the back because we need to respect that phone. So, yeah.
One of the things that I was just thinking is, and I talked about it at the Practice on Fire, is that we hear from dentists that new patient appointments have the biggest no-show rate.
Yeah.
And I'm always wondering, did we ever go back and listen to that phone call and see what happened during that phone call? Because it's like when you go to a restaurant, sometimes you walk in and you immediately, without talking to anyone, without reading the menu, you just get this vibe that it's not for me. So you walk out, right? And you go to another place. And sometimes you walk in and without reading the menu, you're like, I want to eat here, right?
Yeah, right.
So the same thing happens in a dental office, but when they call first and they get that impression about who we are within the first couple of minutes, even seconds sometimes, right?
Yeah.
How that person sounded when she answered the phone.
Yeah.
And they don't just hang up. They don't, so they'll schedule an appointment, but they'll walk away from that conversation feeling like maybe it's not the right place for me. And so then they'll call somewhere else. They'll go there. They never even called to cancel. And we're sitting there thinking, the new patients are such flakes.
Yeah.
I think it's probably not the only reason, but I think it's part of the reason.
Yeah, I actually talk about that. So one of just like we talk about dental box for dentists, we also have that same problem across every position in the office where we go insurance. Like we say all our patients are insurance driven, but most of the time, one of the first few questions that we ask a new patient if we're not trained correctly is, do you have insurance, or what insurance do you have? So we're going right down the insurance path without even really building rapport with a patient, without even really finding out who they are and why they called. So I teach how to flip that around, because if you want your new patients to show up, there's two key things that I think. Actually, now there's three. It's kind of evolving with the technology we have. One is you have to build rapport with a patient. We can't go right to insurance. We have to get to know the person on the phone. Even though they're asking us insurance a lot of times up front, we need to take control of the call, because that's a person, that's a human on the phone, right? Secondly, you can't book them out too far. You need to have spots in your schedule in the next 2 or 3 days to get that new patient in, because if it's out 2 weeks from now, like you said, they might go somewhere else. They might get a horrific, dental story from a friend, and then they cancel or don't show up to the appointment.
Or the urgency passes. They're like something motivated them to call, and then they're like, I got other priorities now.
Exactly. And then the third thing is I actually suggest that you go, and this is where I love Yapi, you get them committed to the appointment. And so what I suggest is having them go to your site and go ahead and fill out their new patient paperwork, which we do in our office. It comes via Yapi into the office, which for many reasons I love that. But it also gives them, it's a commitment. They're coming to your office, they're going to your website, they're seeing your team, they're getting that feeling like when they walked into a restaurant, like this looks nice, and they're filling out that paperwork, which is a commitment that I'm going to show up, right? And so those are the three things that I think really can make a big impact in getting more new patients to show up.
You made a very good point. The commitment is very important. And also, when they do that, they have this experience that this is a high-tech practice.
Right.
They value my time, because it also, one of the questions that I hear often is, how do I get my potential patients fill out the paperwork online? And to me, it's verbal skills. It's the presentation. And when you tell a patient that, I'm going to send you a link. And they don't need to know that it goes out automatically, right? You're going to say, I'm going to send you a link. You can go online, fill out your registration forms online, and it's going to save you time. So when you get here, we're going to sit you immediately. We're going to be ready for you.
Yep.
And that is very different from the kind of experience they might be getting if they say, well, go ahead online, print your forms, fill them out.
Yeah.
Don't forget to bring them in.
Yep.
And it's just, when they know you're going out of your way doing things for them,
Yep.
they love it. Then they make a commitment by filling out the forms.
Yep.
And you already have a relationship. I think all of those are very important.
And I go one more step when we do it in the office. I actually say if you can fill them out before the end of the day today, or can fill them out in the next 24 hours. And I do that for a couple of reasons. It gets the commitment sooner. And then also, if they don't fill it out and they're scheduled, when I'm going to make the confirmation call, this is where I'm starting to see a sign like, okay, are they going to show up or not? Are they really committed? And I don't want them scrambling last minute. Plus, I want the paperwork filled out so I can verify the insurance. And so there's so many benefits to doing that. But we actually tell them, if you could fill this out by the end of the day today would be great. We can have everything in the system for you. Everything is verified. So when you walk in, we'll be able to take care of you right away. And that way, if we can get it done sooner versus the morning of, and now we're still scrambling, trying to get everything, ready for their appointment.
Those are great, great verbal skills.
Yeah.
So I know you talk to teams a lot, and you have an event coming up, right?
Yeah. So ADOM, if you're not familiar with ADOM, it's the American Association of Dental Office Management. My favorite organization. I remember I found them in 2012, and I remember it was in Scottsdale, and I walked in, and I think at the time there was maybe 400 people there or 500 people. And I walked in and I thought, these are my people. Like, they understand me, right? Because so many times, and I see this when I go to different shows, and Gina, you and I've been at a few shows where the front office team, we're just underrepresented. There's usually not a lot of vendors there for us. There's not a lot of courses for us. And so it's fun to go hang out with your assistants and your hygienist and your doctor and stuff. But for CE and for learning and for finding new resources, it's not great. ADOM is all about front office. I mean, ADOM is all about building leaders. The vendors, the sponsors they bring in are all about helping us find ways to be more efficient, to be more effective in the front. And I'm super excited this year because I've spoken now for them. This will be my 3rd year speaking. But this year I have a booth too. So I'm going to have a booth there and bag sponsor for the whole event. So Front Office Rocks is coming full force this year. I'm super excited about it.
That's going to be July 19th through the 21st, right?
Yeah, in Texas, in the heat. So I'm already prepping myself that it's going to be just, be comfortable in the clothes or stay inside. I don't know.
So,
yeah.
I wanted to ask you, we brought up travel. And so the question that I get asked from so many female dentists, practice owners is, how do you do it? How do you, and in my case, I have my dental practice, I have my Yapi, I have, I speak, I travel a lot. Even if I'm not speaking, I'm at a lot because I like to interface with my customers. And so I'm at a lot of shows. And, and then I have kids.
Yeah.
I'm a mom, I'm a wife. And so you're that's been your life as well. Of course, your 2 kids, Nick and Alex, right?
Yep.
They're both grown up already, but still, they're still at that age when you want to be around. And how do you do it? Talk to me about life-work balance.
Well, I think, and I actually was just watching your interview with Anissa Holmes and Delivering Why. I love her. And I agree with a lot of what she says. I think it has to do, you have to know your why. You have to know where you're trying to, like I make sure that I take the time with my kids. I'm like you, Gina. If I'm not traveling for work, we're traveling as a family. Like, I love to travel, and I spend that time with my kids where it's just about them. Just like when I'm traveling, I'm speaking, it's about who I'm speaking to in the audience. So knowing your purpose and your why, I love what I do. I love what I do. So it's not like, oh, I got to get on a plane. I got to go, I get energy from speaking, and I love seeing team members and learning from them and teaching them, and then coming home and getting to hang out with my kids and spend time with them. But if you don't know where your why is, and I don't even know so much about female dentists, but just dentists in general. I've talked to hundreds of dentists over the years, and I feel that they lose their why. We lose our purpose. When you first got out of dental school and you open a practice, it's, I'm going to rid the world of cavities and gum disease. And I'm going to put my logo here, and we're going to have a saltwater fish tank, and this is going to be amazing. And then 5, 10, 15 years later, you wake up on Monday going, oh, I wish I would have opened a donut shop, right? It's because you lost your why. Why are we here? We get too focused now on overhead and schedule and production and numbers and the team and stress and drama. And so then it makes it not fun, and you don't want to do it, and you dread it. And so I always say, go back to your why. And maybe your why is not to have 4 locations. Maybe your why is not to have a big practice like you. That's okay. But make sure you're happy with what you're doing, because if you're not going to be motivated to do it. You're not going to like it. And the rest of your life is going to suffer. If you're not happy in one area in your life, it's going to bleed over into the other areas.
Oh, very true. And it's interesting because I was on that path of discovering my why, maybe, I don't know, about 7 years ago, when I was like, why am I doing all these things?
Yeah,
It's gotta be a reason. And I've actually discovered that my why is to make sense of things, is to organize and I love workflows and efficiency. And that's that's what I've always done in my practice, and that's how Yapi came about, and that's how I still operate even at home.
Yeah.
You know, I clean desk, you know, I have certain ways that I like to work, and but it goes back to, you know, to
Yeah.
why I exist and why I get out of bed, and why should anyone care why I get out of bed?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, kind of going back to the dental thing, because I'm the same way. I mean, I feel like I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer. I love doing that. That's why I'm not a consultant. I don't go in and, you know, I love teaching, and I love, my whole goal is to have people love dentistry. Have that receptionist come in that first week and go, oh my gosh, I love this, versus I want to pull my hair out. What did I think what did I just do? And I think a lot of times dentists, you know, they start doing things in their practice because the guy down the street is, because they need to make more money, because we see it on social media. You know, they're doing big cosmetic cases, we should too. They're doing it. And maybe it's just not what you want to do, you know, that's okay. But one of the big things for me right now is sleep dentistry, sleep apnea. There are some dentists who have taken this on and they live it, they breathe it, they know they're saving people's lives, that it's in their heart, and the benefits of insurance, medical, and all that, that's just a side thing. But there are a lot of dentists who are struggling to try to get sleep apnea in the practice, but they're really, it's not in their heart. It's because they're seeing these, oh, you can build medical and people are growing their practices. You'll probably never be successful at it or like it if that's your reason for doing it. So always make sure, just like, why are we doing this? Whatever. If it's not really something you're interested in, it doesn't matter if somebody down the street's doing it. That's fine. Let them do what you like, because we're only on this earth once. We had a time in our practice, it was probably 2011, where we were having, it was about a quarter where it was just not good. Like the numbers were down. And so I'm in the front and I'm digging reports and I'm trying to figure out what's changed. Is our marketing not working? Are we not, what's going on? And my two doctors are in the back and they're also kind of going through what's changed, what's going on. And neither of them have done endo for years. Neither of them liked endo. We always referred endo out. And so I figured out a couple things and I go back to meet with them and they said, we know how we're going to fix the practice. We know what we're going to do. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? And they said, we're going to start doing endo. We just figured out how much we're sending to the endodontist. We could just bring that back. And I'm like, but you guys hate endo. Yeah, we know, but we know we're going to send it out. And I'm like, that's not fixing the practice. That's not looking at what's going on with the business, right? And you're going to hate it. And it's going to take a long time. And it's not going to be what's best for the patients. And no, let's not bring endo and let's figure out what's going on and see if we can figure it on the business side and not just go to dentistry. But that was the business box, right? And they were going to try to fix it that way.
So one of the questions, I want to go back to talking about the difference between female dentists and male dentists, because you're working with so many team members. Yeah. And one of the things that I hear from female dentists is that they don't get the same respect as their male counterparts. Yeah. Is it really true? Does that happen, or is it their perception? I mean, what's going on?
I was going to say, I think a lot of this is just like I said about, if you blame an outside factor, that's going to come true. So if you're like, well, all new patients are insurance driven, guess what? All the new patients are going to be insurance driven. If my team doesn't respect me because I'm female, guess what? You're probably not going to get respect from your team. So we tend to, I hear people say patients have low dental IQ. Right? I don't know if you've ever, and I'm like, has anybody ever seen the dental IQ test? Like, of course they have low dental IQ. They didn't go to dental school. They don't know what we know, right? So some of that, I feel that people take on these things they blame because it makes them feel better. Okay. So for a female dentist, it goes, well, my team doesn't respect me because I'm female. Okay, let's actually look at that. If you look in the mirror and say, instead of saying that and go, my team doesn't respect me because I'm not earning it, right? That's hard. That's really hard. If you look at your business and go, my business isn't doing well because of me, that's difficult to do. But until you do that, then you're giving weight to the thing that you're blaming, which is my team doesn't respect me, and they're probably never going to respect you. And then if anything, you're going to go the opposite and become, I've heard, I personally think female dentists would be great to work for. I work for our partner as a female dentist. She's a better communicator. She's better with the team. She's better with the HR stuff versus the male dentist. But I've talked to people who've worked for a female dentist who is like a terror, and probably because that female dentist was trying to get respect. and they weren't feeling they were getting it, so they were coming in like all full, force, that's not how you're going to fix the problem, So I think a lot of it is you have to look internally, which is not easy to do. It's really hard. But once you get through that first step, then you can say, all right, well, what can I do to fix this?
Right. And I think, I think you hit the nail on the head again. It's a lot of it, my opinion, is fundamental attribution error when we're looking at to external factors, not internal.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult. It's really difficult to say, I need to improve. And when people approach me with that question, I always feel like I don't know if I'm blunt enough to say, maybe it's you.
Yeah.
But I know in general for women, it's very difficult because on one hand, they don't want to come off too strong. They don't want to be considerate, aggrandizing or, be called a bitch. And so they tend to be softer and become friendly. And then they don't get any respect. They get, they become pushovers and they feel it's because they're male. I mean, I am fortunate because I have incredible team, both here at Yapi and in my dental practice. And, I've never felt that I wasn't respected, and I've never, and I don't know if it's me or if it's just my ability to find great people.
Probably a combination of both.
But I'm so proud of what we've created here.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about getting things done. And I think that's one of the things that's really helped me. When people ask me, like, how do you get anything done? And truthfully, I really don't do much, I have ideas, and I have all those wonderful people that can bring my ideas to life because I communicate what I want done well. And delegation is hard for a lot of people. This is another thing that we need to talk about. How do we, as dentists, learn to delegate? Because we're technical, right? So only we can do that temporary crown well enough. Only we can trace the filling. Only we can do all those things. And I think a lot of times on one end, we're saying, I don't want to know what's going on in the front. Sometimes we become those extreme micromanagers where we're doing everything. How do we stop micromanaging? How do we learn to delegate?
Well, I think a lot of times it happens when you get burnt out, when you feel like you can't do anymore, when you feel like you're there at 8 o'clock at night and the team's at home and you're still doing stuff or you're the one doing everything in the back or whatever. That's really when you kind of notice maybe it's time to delegate. I think you said it earlier, which I agree with. If you continue to fight fires for the team, they're going to just continue to come to you. So you have to change the way you work with your team and not just tell them the answer. But when they bring you an issue, have them bring you an issue and some solutions. What are 2 or 3 things we can do about this? Get them to start thinking independently. The second thing is, and I say this all the time to my team, I've always said it, is if I know that you put thought behind your decision, even if I don't agree with you, I'll back you up. So if I know you decided to do X, Y, Z because of this reason, and it's reasonable and you thought about it, I'm going to support you no matter what. I might tell you next time, don't do it that way. I would prefer you do it this way so you can learn. But you don't have to be afraid of me like yelling at you or firing you or because you put a thought to it. If you just do it and I say why and you go, I don't know, that's a problem. Because you need to help them learn how to be independent thinkers, And then lastly, the dentists just have to start letting other people do things. And I know, for example, with impressions and different things they can do in the back, that the dentist says, nobody can do it as well as me. Nobody can do it as well as I can. Well, then you're going to be doing it forever. Right. So you have to give up the fact I'm a perfectionist, but some things just aren't going to be as good as you, but you can be more productive doing things that only a dentist can do if you actually give up some of these day-to-day responsibilities and teach them, train them, tell them what you want. Don't just assume they can read your mind. Sit down and take the time to tell them what you want so that they do it the way you want, so that there's less on your plate and you can start, running the business more, being the leader that you need to be.
Absolutely.
We will be able to experience you at ADEM this year, and you will be on the star speaker lineup. Do you know what date you'll be speaking?
I'm the opening speaker on Wednesday night,
okay.
And then I'm speaking on Saturday morning. So I'm speaking on your first 30 days as an office manager, what to do. And then I'm speaking on, you'll like this one, Gina, how to have hard conversations with your doctors. Cause I have office managers coming to me and team members all the time going, my doctor won't listen to me. My doctor won't. And so I'm going to do, I think it's an hour and a half or 2 hours on how to have that conversation with your dentist.
You should make that into your third book.
Yeah, there we go. That's my next one. I don't know. I'm in the middle of this book. Don't stress me out.
Well, thank you so much. Now, if anyone wants to find you, if they're interested in Front Office Rocks, now I will tell you, we use it in my office, and it's great for training new team, a team member, you hire someone and then you just like put them, okay, you watch the videos and then we talk about what they've learned. And, I talk with them, they talk to my team members. It's great for training existing team members on kind of refreshing certain things, periodically in any practice. It doesn't matter how well it's run. Sometimes like things start to slide back. And a lot of times it happens because there's some change in the office. Maybe a new person comes in and brings something new. Maybe it's fatigue, who knows? But sometimes you need a refresher, and that's a great way to refresh. And we travel to other conferences, but Front Office Rocks is incredible. And another thing that we do is we actually use it here at Yapi. Whenever we hire someone for, not the tech team, but whenever we hire someone who's going to be interacting with our customers, the trainers, the supports, the coaches, the first thing they do before they even learn Yapi, they learn the dental from Front Office Rocks. So they watch those videos, and it's been an incredible resource, just getting everyone on the same place, to show them what good looks like. Because they've all had dental experiences, whether they've been in a dental office before. We have some former dental team members here, or they're coming from, other professions. We want them to see what good looks like. So for those doctors who are interested in bringing Front Office Rocks to their practice, where will they find you?
You just frontofficerocks.com. I'm 100% online. And follow me on social media. I post ideas, videos, tips all along. So you can just find Front Office Rocks, but it's frontofficerocks.com. So I'm available 24/7. I can talk all day long.
That's true. I can attest to that.